Okay. Okay. You know what time it is? 2024. F1 season is upon us in about like 20 odd days, 25 ish. It's looking like a cracker season. So I'm coming with you today for these gnarly predictions. I've got some crazy predictions off the back of Lewis Hamilton getting announced off Ferrari. The hype is insanely high at the moment. So I figured I may as well come on the mic here today and share some of my brazy predictions I whipped up on Discord at like 1 in the morning, something like that. And these are not cowardly predictions. These are super shisty. I dare say innovative. A mix between innovative and just like reaching. Exciting. Like if I get these correct, any of these topics like today correct, insane. Insanio. And I figured just like come on the mic, little chill sesh, nice midday, nice 12 p.m. here in Australia, and share these gnarly predictions with you. So like I want to cut straight into it. We want dilly dallying. All right, we got some fun ones here too. First one on the list, Destructors. I'm gonna keep it a stack. This is so like random. Like I think most people would probably not have any like qualms with the top three, right? Lance, you know, Perez, you know, and then Ocon. Regardless of him doing anything wrong, it's probably just gonna happen anyway. Like it's the guy cannot catch a break. But we're not Ocon fans around here, so who cares? But like I think the top three is probably correct. If I had to guess, top five is or top six even down to Magnussen. It's probably actually going to be like somewhat accurate. The only thing I'm imagining a lot of people would say is Logan should be higher, but I got a lot of faith in Logan this season. I got a lot of faith. We just had the Williams drop, by the way. The new uniform's looking nice with that white. I'm a huge fan of it. I think the white is super nice. I think it outdoes the car significantly, a lot. But and then I think the bottom up until Hulkenberg or Albon, I think this is probably correct too. These drivers probably don't get into much trouble. Piastri too. I don't think he had too many like mistakes. He had Zandvoort last year, but he was an amazing rookie. Maybe he'll get unlucky. Like he had that little collision with Sainz, all Sainz's fault. But I can't fault him basically at all. I back him pretty hard. But Destructors kind of a throwaway one. It's just like, yes, like if this is correct, like that's insane. First one up to the Oki, and a few of these will have spoilers for the bigger ones, the big dogs. But driver of the day predictions, right? Let's start with the ones I don't think are too questionable. Lando's going to get a ton this year. I think a lot of that is just from how well he's an amazing driver, but he's also just so loved. He's probably top 4 most loved drivers on the grid. Maybe not top 4. That's kind of crazy, but well, actually that might be true because like Alonso's popular, but there's also that little subsection that kind of thinks he's not nice. He's that bad man. But Lando, super likable, fantastic driver. It's hard to argue. I feel like with the 6th driver of the day, Max, outstanding driver. No, I can't imagine too many people arguing with that. Charles, obviously, and then getting down to it, I think I have a lot of faith in Yuki this season. He got, I think he got one driver of the day last year. I think he was really close to another one earlier on in the season when he was cracking these P11s in that dumpster, that absolute like walking fence post of a car in that AlphaTauri. But I think same with Ricardo. I've had Ricardo marked down for a driver of the day. The Racing Bulls car, I think, is going to be much more competitive this year. I think everyone's, mostly on board with that. They don't know how competitive it will be, but I do have a fair amount of faith in it. So two for Yuki, one for Ricardo. The AlphaTauri boys. George Russell is not on here. Which it's really unlikely that he doesn't get one. I feel like he didn't get a driver of the day last year. He did have a pretty mediocre season, but it's still quite strange. I feel. I think Hamilton's gonna get at least 2. Like I'm going for a 2, and that's honestly he would have more, like 3 or 4. But I just do not have faith in the Mercedes car to be to get those like standout results, especially because like I feel like last year, no, Hamilton got a lot of spotlight last year, but some cars just didn't if they were in that kind of midfield, mid to lower. So I'm not sure how many people will take note of a good performance in like a what might end up being like a like a mid or lower midfield car. Clearly, Hamilton doesn't have much faith in that thing. With this little Ferrari jump. Sargent, I feel like Sargent's gonna crack out a cheeky little one. Half of that being, I think Sargent will have some good performances this year. I think he's actually gonna do good. Just off vibes, but I think also because of relatively how shocking last year was, he's gonna have one, maybe like a 9th or an 8th place, or even maybe like a really hard earned like 11th, something like that. And people are gonna take note of it. He'll have his battle shown like on air, and I think a lot of people are gonna take note of it, and people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, Sargent's actually like not crashing into a wall," and he's gonna end up with the driver of the day, at least one. I feel like Gasly's just like an underrated, amazing driver, cracking so many good performances out last year, and previous years before that. Obviously, win at Imola. 2, maybe not. Who knows? But he should get at least 1. I'd be surprised. I could have also just like cut his in half, given him 1, given Ocon 1, because it is honestly pretty likely that Ocon gets 1. I don't think he got 1 last year, but who knows? Science. Crazy that I think he's gonna get only 1. I think he might get shafted in a few. Nothing crazy. It's science, Alonso, same thing. Not shocking. It's Alonso. He's gonna get probably at least 2. Albon, I think at least 1. But gonna double him up on the Sargent. On the Sargent prediction. Sorry if my mouse on screen bothered you. If you are a little Spectrum brother like me. But drive of the day, nothing crazy, Well, it is, I guess, kind of crazy. The time 6 might be a bit outlandish, but I think it'll add up. Constructors. This is a bit of spoilers for the driver, for my driver standings. But McLaren, I don't think McLaren is too contentious. Obviously, unless you think Red Bull is just going to smash their season again. But we saw, if Perez has another similar year to like the second half of, or even the full year of last year, but he was just fortunate enough to have a car that was so ahead of the field. Like, if you take, everyone knows this, right? This isn't crazy. Nothing I'm saying is crazy right now. But second half of the year onwards, bro, he would have gone like 7th in the fucking drivers. He did awful. So insanely bad. So hilariously bad in a car that Max was dominating, 19 wins in a season. The most dominant season in history by a single driver. And team as well. Can't forget that. But I'm saying, McLaren's driver lineup, everyone knows it's arguably the strongest on the grid. Very, very, very arguably. Maybe you think Ferrari. Maybe you think Mercedes, but I don't think anyone's gonna really have a problem with me saying that the Mercedes car is gonna be a bit dog for this season, more than likely. So I just think McLaren. I think Lando's gonna be a front runner. This is assuming that the McLaren is gonna be a top 2 car, or 3 even, which I think is pretty likely. That's what ended up happening last season for the latter half. So I think Lando is going to be a front runner. Piastri, I think, is going to be also up there, as I'll show you my drivers' predictions. Ferrari, similar thing. Ferrari may be a bit more contentious at second. It honestly kind of just depends on how hard you think Max is going to carry, or if you think Perez has a relatively solid season. That's really where this makes the difference. But I don't think the top 3 is too crazy outside of that. I have a lot of faith in Ferrari this season. But honestly, it is just a lack of Red Bull is why I don't think they're top 2. That's about it. And I think 2, you see in the middle, 2 gaps. I think Mercedes is going to be on their lonesome. I think they should be clear of the rest of the field, but I think they're going to be far off the numbers of the top 3 running teams. I don't think that's super contentious, to be honest. Not as contentious, at least, as the beneath that. I know it's definitely smoking that loud. I know, I understand. But similar thing to the top three: Racing Bulls and Williams. Williams is a reach. I get it. Williams is honestly just me kind of hoping. I think the Williams car will be solid. I think it might actually be around 6th or 7th for fastest car on the grid, so or 5th, something like that, something around there. I actually do have faith in it for that. But this is just me assuming that Logan Sargent is going to do a standout job or a solid job in the Williams and get those points finishes every so often. Because their main competitor, I think, will be Racing Bulls this season. I have a strong feeling. Racing Bulls also a really strong driver lineup. Assuming Danny Rick is on the ball and Yuki. No, I don't think he's underrated anymore. I think people understand how good Yuki is. I think Yuki is standout, amazing talent, still very young. And yeah, I think this is going to be his hungriest year yet. Because this is make or break. This is leading up to his Red Bull potential seat, or maybe a seat at Aston, something like that. This is a huge. This year, I think, is easily Yuki's biggest year. Like, bar none, easily clears. But if you don't think Aston Williams is that high, it makes sense. I just honestly, half of that is just, if I'm right, it's shy. It's so shiced. It is absolutely nasty if I'm right on that prediction. Aston is maybe a bit low, similar to Red Bull though. The reason why I think Aston will be worse than Racing Bulls and Williams, just Lance might not pull his weight, and the car might not be a front runner, or I guess because it ended up being like a bit of a midfield car, sometimes on the lower end, which was really shocking from how the season started with Alonso cracking these podiums. What he had, like, I feel like he had 7 in a row, 9 in a row, something. He had a good streak. Same with points finishes. He had like a 15 streak of points finishes, something like that. So it's contentious, but I don't think it's out of this world. Alpine, I thought Alpine prediction was a bit out of this world, but it seems like the sentiment might actually be that Alpine will not do that well, like, at all. Again, no one. I don't think anyone has huge qualms with the driver lineup. They're not top tier drivers. Gasly, I think Gasly was a top 10 driver last year. I would say that actually, like, confidently. Ocon is a bit more, I don't know. Brother is saying he's going to fucking war mode for the new season. Whatever that means. He's probably just gonna slam it into Gasly on the straight for threatening to take his position as number 1 driver at that team. Something outrageous. Alpine, there's just not much to say. The cars, just no one has faith in the team. Rightfully so, I feel like. Oh, I don't know. Like, they're just nowhere. I feel like they're not going to progress. Same with Aston, really. Aston, I think, is also just, like, no faith for progression of the car over the year, over the span of the year. They were pretty lost. They were extremely lost last year. So I don't think that's super contentious either, actually. Besides the fact that they're both beneath Williams and Racing Bulls, I don't think it's super contentious. Then there's going to be a gap. And this is a given. Sauber, no one is calling him that long-ass name. No one cares. Sauber, going to be better than Haas, more than likely. That's about it. And Haas, yeah, come on. Yeah, it's Jova. It is absolutely Jova for that team. I can't wait for my boy Hulkenberg to get out of there, wherever he may go, as long as he has a seat. But here we go. Ooh, did not mean to have this first. It's okay. We'll save that for last. Drivers' predictions. I'm going to start at the bottom, because I think the bottom is... Like, actually, like, I don't think anyone would have any qualms with this. Unless you think Sargent's going to have another dog season. Then, sure, that's fine. But Hulk's going to be the best of the 2 worst teams, easily. Joe or Bottas, again, same with Yuki. I think this is a huge season for Joe. This is Joe's probably last chance at a race seat. He's going to get taken out in 2025 if he doesn't, like, demolish Bottas, like, in the head-to-head, which is going to be tough because, like, they've been basically the same for the past 2 seasons. But he's younger, you know, who knows. Bottas is, you know, still a great driver. He was pretty, you know, both of them were so anonymous last season because that Alfa Romeo was just, like, it was bad, but it was, like, it didn't have the peaks of, like, the Williams the Haas in qualifying for the most part, except for what was it? Was it Sao Paulo? I don't remember when it was. I don't remember when Joe qualified 5th and Bottas qualified like 7th. That's about it. They got like a few Q3s, but not. I think Hulkenberg had more than both of them combined. So I don't know. It's really who cares. Magnussen, I think, is going to have another dog season. I think the Haas is going to be the worst car on the grid, but I think Hulk's going to pull it to some points, like he did last season, and end up the head of the best of the worst, so to speak. And then I think it's going to be Gap. I think Sargent's probably going to be on his own. I think he might pull ahead of those 4, but that's about it. I think he will have an okay season. He better, otherwise he's gone. He's absolutely gone. Ahead of that, you have the group here: Ocon, Lance, Gasly. I feel like that kind of explains itself. Lance maybe might be a bit contentious, to be honest. But Gasly ahead of those two, I don't think anyone should be arguing with, unless you're an Ocon stan. Not too much there. The group ahead, though, is honestly outrageous, to be honest, looking at it. Alonso, Albon, Ricciardo, Yuki, in that order. That I feel like it's just vibes. It's just vibes. I will say, I do think genuinely Yuki will beat Ricciardo. I think a lot of people are betting against Yuki, betting for Ricciardo to beat him over the course of a season. No, he's old. Yuki's the GOAT. That's all I have to say. Albon, I would love to see Albon beat the GOAT, Alonso. Albon, I think he will have I think Albon's position in the season seems about right. He could be higher, like depending on how good the Racing Bulls car is, or he could be lower if that Williams isn't that good this season. Even though James Vowles has put so much faith in that car. I put so much faith. I have so much faith in that car because of James Vowles. James Vowles is a great team principal. He's easily the best on the grid right now. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that group. Good, another 3 coming up. Russell, Perez, Hamilton. Again, not much faith in the Mercedes car. The Red Bull car will probably be the second fastest car on the grid, or the fastest, to be honest. But not much faith in Sergio. If the Red Bull is not as dastardly quick as it was last season at the start, there's no way he was going to end up anywhere near the top 5 or top 6 even. Well, I think I have him at the 7th here, which I feel like is not unreasonable, like by any stretch. Even I think him and Russell are interchangeable. Like Russell could easily, I can see finishing ahead of him. Again, I think it varies a lot in how good that Mercedes car is this season. And I think there's gonna be a gap, and I think Sainz is gonna be on his lonesome. I'm feeling a Sainz lonely. Was that a lonely 5th? I feel like that's not a crazy prediction. Unless you are a Sainz stan and you think he's better than Charles, you're wrong. Oh my god, bro. People taking that one win to the grave, bro. Oh my god. I get it. Look, it was an amazing performance. It was probably the best drive of that season, quite frankly. It was at least top 4 of that season. Singapore, that's gonna end up as one of the biggest highlights of the 2020s for F1. Very, very easily. In a season that was dominated by Max Verstappen, Sainz comes out with the banger, masterclass strategy, towing Lando. Oh man! By the way, as a Lando fan, that I'm sure that it was gutting to watch that. Gutting, bro. Oh my god! But I don't want to talk about it anymore. Sainz, I think he's gonna be a lonesome 5th. Piastri might be a bit contentious, but this kid is just so talented, bro. Like it's unreal. I will say, I realized the math, just going back to the race winner predictions on the number, I realized the math doesn't honestly check out with the number of wins and the fact that I think it's going to be relatively close between these 4, Charles and Piastri. Maybe they'll be more consistent over a season, and maybe have a few less DNFs. Who knows? I do understand the math honestly doesn't check out, though. That's completely reasonable. I think Charles... I think 3rd makes sense. I think... Who knows? I might do a little mid-season checkup and see how he's cracking on. But I don't think that's too contentious either. What is contentious, obviously, is Max not winning for what would be a 4th time in a row. And I just have a lot of faith in... I think it's going to be close. If the McLaren is a competitive car and Lando's the front runner, it will be close. I don't think it's going to be a landslide like it was last season. It shouldn't be, and everyone hopes it's not. Hopes it won't be for the love of the sport. Because like I don't know what the Drive to Survive season is going to be like if we have another 2023 season where Max just clears it, and the only interesting thing is a lower midfield battle for 6th in the constructors again, like last season, or 7th. I mean, that was probably the most interesting thing to come out of last season. Was the Williams 7th. So everyone's, praise be, bro. Praise be. But Lando, I just have a lot of faith in McLaren. Outstanding driver. I think he's got a lot more backing for his mental game coming into the season. And he won't be so hard on himself, and the mental will be better. Oh man. The what ifs of qualifying last season, like Qatar and shit like that. Maybe we might have even seen a win. But going into the win, because it just go hand in hand. I do think it would be hilarious if Lando went from 0 wins in a season, or in his career, to 8. That would be, quite frankly, comical. But race winner predictions, and I've got individual races picked out as well. Zandvoort for Max is just free, to be honest. Like, it's actually bigger. It's a bigger upset if he doesn't win Zandvoort. That would be the most shocking thing. That's more shocking than him not winning the WDC. Like, I think straight up. I see no reason why he isn't winning Zandvoort. He's remarkably good at that track. It's his track, and it's for him. It is basically exclusively for him. No contentions there. I think we're going to see six wins compared to Lando's 8, but I would bet that he is going to be more consistent over the course of a season. That just makes sense. He's a fucking robot. If that car can deliver, he will deliver. I'm just banking on the McLaren being better, hopefully, and Lando cracking it out for the UK scene. Shaw 3, Piastri 3. Real quick, Lando Silverstone. Off vibes. I think the storyline of a Silverstone win for Lando would just be beautiful. Especially after his attempt last year, where he got so... He didn't get close, but, it looked promising for a while, He let it, for... I don't remember if he let it for a few corners or a few laps. I actually don't remember which one it was. Either way, he let it for a little bit. Cute. Charles 3, I think he's going to win Singapore. I think Singapore's a good bet for him to win. If I had to... I think it's the most likely for a Ferrari win. It's what Sainz won last year. I think it's probably the best, most optimized for the Ferrari. Maybe you could say Imola. I think Imola's actually a good bet too. For the Ferrari to win. That's also where Sainz got really close to winning last year. So, I don't think that's a crazy call out. By the way, I'm not sure if you can hear the wind. The wind is going crazy outside. Piastri. I've put 2 down for Piastri for some reason. I'm feeling Qatar. Again, I think it's a nice win storyline. Winning at the track where he got his first taste of victory with the sprint would just be very, very cute. Very, very nice. And Monaco, just because I think it would be crazy. I would love to see that. There's honestly no reason why he should win, but I don't see a reason why he couldn't win it either. Quite frankly, if that McLaren is competitive. Yuki, Abu Dhabi. Off vibes. Yuki is also just very good in Abu Dhabi. He had the 4th in 2021. I don't actually remember how good he did 2022. But then he had what I would honestly say is one of the best performances of last year in 2023. His Abu Dhabi performance was astounding. I think really, really good. If you saw him in a top tier car there, I think it would have been a top 3 finish. I'm not going to say he would have won. He would have won. Because that's outrageous. But an outstanding drive. He just seems to deliver in Abu Dhabi. And I don't see why... if I had to bet on Yuki winning a race, it would be Abu Dhabi or Suzuka. It'd be something like that. 2 tracks that he loves, and he is very good at. Vibes. Hamilton was a hard one to pick. I'm not even actually convinced he will win a race. Now, because these were made before his signing to Ferrari, if he has as little faith in the Mercedes as we think he might have, Dude, I don't know, man. He might actually not, like, he straight up just might not win. But if I had to bet on one, Mexico, he might win the Mexico GP. I'm not really sold on it. I just kind of picked one off vibes. And Ricardo, I get it. Oh, by the way, I understand. I understand that picking two AlphaTauri, Racing Bull drivers to win in a season is outrageous. This is already a pretty long list of race winners. This is 7 winners, right? Like 3, 6, 7. Like, that's a lot. We had 2 last season. I think 2022 season had, I believe, 5. You had Sainz, Leclerc, Max, Perez, and Russell were your winners in 2022. So it's only 2 more, but 7. 5. 5 isn't like, no, 5 is actually kind of a lot. Like, comparing to other seasons. But I think it just depends how close the field is. Like, 2022, the field was much closer. 2023, obviously, wasn't close at all. But 2024, the teams will be closer, I think, across the board. I mean, you saw the end of last year, teams were so close together. Like, you had a whole, like, the entire grid in qualifying separated by, like, 3/10. Which is just nothing. Or maybe it's 5. Across a few races, I feel like. So I don't think it's too outlandish to say 7. Obviously, that's qualifying and not race pace. But the race pace was also super close across towards the end of the season, so across the grid. But that's it. That's gonna do it for me. These are my outlandish, and I feel like quite reasonable. 50-50 across the board. Predictions for Formula 1. These tunes in the back have been produced by my boy Weeksy on Instagram. I will link it in the bottom in the description. Just thought I'd come on the mic, chill out, spit some game, and I think I'm gonna do this more. I think I'm gonna do a little weekly rip off the P1 podcast, but make it more shiesty, and come out with some weekly reviews of each GP. But these have been my predictions. Cooked them up at like 1 a.m. Me and my boy Seb, even though it was mainly me, primarily me. This has been Vilgax, your host, and thank you for stopping by. Who knows what type of traction we'll get, but it's been very cute, and hopefully we have a entertaining season. Love. Have a good and wonderful day. Mwah.